What's up? It's Way Up with Angela Yee, and it's definitely way up. We got two Brooklyn girls in the building. I'm here with MC Lyte.
Yes, it's a pleasure.
It is such a. I always tell you, like, I want MC Lyte to come up here because you are just somebody that I've looked up to ever since I was young, and then having met you in person so many years ago when we hosted something together. It was like a New Year's countdown or something.
Yeah,
I was like, this is so surreal to me.
Right, I don't even remember that. Let me tell you,
you've done everything.
So many years.
Yes,
in this thing, right? People are like, you don't remember that event we did? And
you're like, I do events 300 days a year.
Right, all the time.
What does MC Lyte do for fun besides work?
Oh goodness, besides work. Well, work is fun.
Besides, that's why I said besides
work. I like to bowl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I love watching documentaries.
All right.
I love going to the movies.
Okay, all right. What's the so documentaries? Let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
What are some of the ones you've seen recently that you're like, I would recommend this? Because I'll be watching the documentaries too.
Well, there are a few. I probably don't know the names of them, but I remember the content. Okay, so remember the triplets that didn't know they were triplets? They were separated at birth.
I didn't see that one.
Oh my God! Okay. They met, I think, in college. So the two of them met, and then they met another one, and it was just like, it was crazy. Then there's another one where there were two sets of twins, but they were with the wrong twin.
Okay.
So one of the twins went to school. They said, oh my God, he saw him. He was like, you look just like my brother.
I feel like I saw this on the news.
Okay.
Is this the same documentary, or do you like
these
twin
are two different
and triplet documentaries?
I do. I do, but it's different. And then, of course, there's Sarah is the school that was upstate, and they were all living in a house. And then one of the girls, her father was in prison, and he would talk to all of them from prison. Well, anyway, he came out and went to live with them. And first they were like, oh my God, this is creepy. Your father's living with us. And then
that is weird.
All of a sudden they got used to it, and he was giving them advice and all kinds of things.
That's nice.
Anyway, girl, it wound up being a torturous situation for these
not
kids.
Nice.
Yeah. Even the daughter left. She was like, I know he's my father, but I'm out of here. Y'all can keep him.
Oh, no shade, but I kind of feel that way. No, I couldn't imagine living with my dad.
Right, well.
Yeah. Unless it was a big house and he was in the basement or something. But anyway, MC Lyte, let's talk about what we're here for, though. I just like to get a little insight on what you do, because every time I see you, it's work-related. You're working, you're always doing the things, and I appreciate you for that. But you are putting out a new album, which is amazing. I saw you at BET Awards, and we spoke about it briefly. And Woman, that's the song that we've already heard, with Salt, with Raheem DeVaughn.
And Big Daddy Kane.
What a nice group of people. And you've been on the Queen's R&B tour.
Yeah.
As well. How does all this feel for you, just knowing that, like, all this time, all this longevity, because everybody is not going to make it this long, to still be respected and also revered the way you are?
Well, you know what? I consider myself blessed. I am in gratitude that, the day I decide, and I look at a few others, LL and Common and Ghostface, it's like, okay, you wake up one morning and you go, you know what, I want to stick my toe back in this water. And that there's a place. We can actually do it, and there's a home for it, and people love it. With LL's platform, we saw last year for the 50th, we saw cruises, we saw festivals, we saw tours, and it was great. I performed on the cruise, I performed on the festival, and then I went out and did a couple of dates on the tour, and everywhere was packed. So there is an audience. People want to see it. They want to, feel us as the artists that they grew up with. And so I'm just glad to still be in it and still rocking. And the process for the album was it was fantastic. I love being in the process of making an album. It's one of the best feelings to wake up every day and go to the studio. If I could live my life like that, that would be fantastic. But we know at some point you got to deliver the project, you got to go perform, and you got to do, all of the other stuff that comes with it.
And speaking of delivering the project, I know it's been like, okay, it's coming out this date, but then it's coming a little bit later. Yeah. So talk to me about that part, because I know as an
samples.
Artist,
sample clearances, it's making the decision as to whether or not you want to use samples. Because of course we know that when we hear a record that has a sample in it, it feels like you're transported back to that time.
Right.
So you get layers of soul that just aren't in today's music. And so we went through the samples, but of course, Warren Campbell, who is executive producing the project and producing most of the songs on it, he's also a musician, so he can play all of the instruments. So we've ended up having to play all.
Those samples get expensive.
Yeah.
And it takes a while sometimes to even contact.
And even after you clear the master side, you still got to clear the publishing side.
Okay.
So we're still in the midst of all of that. So that's the holdup.
You could also sample yourself. I mean, you got classic songs.
Yeah.
And then I'm not having it. And then you did I'm still not having it.
Right. You remember that? Yes.
That song still. A lot of those songs still hold true today, though.
Yeah. And you know what? The remix, I'm still not having it, was Bill Withers. And he controlled his publishing. So we just called and said, can we have this? Can we? And they was like, yeah, go ahead and use it. And they signed our paperwork and we did it. But now, that was years ago. Mm-hmm. It's such a big business, publishing and samples and, the master sync licenses and all of those things. It makes so much money that there's no way you could just call somebody and say, can you give me this? And them say yes and really have the power to do it.
What about your catalog? Mm-hmm. Because I know a lot of people are doing deals for publishing and they are doing deals with their masters.
Yeah.
What have you done with yours?
Nothing. I'm keeping it.
You're keeping it all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, first off, I don't own my masters. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I came in at a time where the record labels, you didn't really think about it. You said, oh, give me this opportunity. Okay, I got it.
But do they revert back? I know there's like a timeline where they revert back.
Well, you have to go after it. And I think it's like 35 years. So once upon a time, they said 20. I don't know if they pushed back and now it's 35. Mm-hmm. But no, I do not have my masters back. But I've got so much more new music that I own the masters too. Okay. That's what I concentrate on pushing.
That's a lesson learned because you were a teenager when you first came out.
Girl.
And it's hard. And that was a time when nobody really knew the business. It was kind of a wild, wild west for music.
Yes, it really was. And, they sign and it says you're 50. Okay, so let me slow down. I used to work 1 week, go to school 1 week, work 1 week, go to school 1 week. It was part of the co-op program, and I worked at Bear Stearns at the World Trade Center.
Okay.
Right, in the building 5 that just fell and nobody knows why. Okay, so I used to work in that building. Mm-hmm. And so being there, I was surrounded by brokers. And so I got this record contract. I don't know the first thing about getting an attorney. So I let one of the brokers look at the contract. And he said, well, everything looks good except they want to own 50% of your publishing. I was like, is that a bad thing? He was like, just tell them that you don't want to give it to them. I said, oh, okay. So I called up the record label. I was like, okay, so the contract is cool. I don't want to give up 50% of my publishing. And they said, oh, well, then there's no deal. I was like, oh, okay. So then I'll sign it.
Right. Well, he gave you some good advice.
He did.
But you didn't feel like you had the leverage because you wanted to,
Yeah, it was like, okay, am I going to make 0 of 100% or something from 50? And so I signed my publishing.
Okay, well...
or no songs.
You know what I always wanted to ask you, too? Because during that time coming up, I remember you engaged in some hip-hop beef activities, and we're watching a lot of that play out now. Mm-hmm. But how was that for you back then? Like, when you and Roxanne Shanté kind of went at it, you had to respond... But it felt like it was really just on wax. It wasn't like if I saw you, it's on.
Yeah.
What was it like?
It was just on wax. And, many years later, I went to her ice cream shop. She had an ice cream shop in Jamaica, Queens. So I went there. I patronized her business. We sat, we talked, and we cleared the air. And I think, unfortunately, I don't know what it is today, but back then, most beefs were fueled by the men. Mm-hmm. They weren't... We two women could kind of work things out. We're going to talk or we're not going to talk, but we ain't going to be bickering and all. We understand what this game is. And some of us we just don't get along to be friends. But we can be cordial and say hello to one another.
Everybody ain't got to be besties.
Right. And be a part of the tribute and do all of the things that we need to do. Well, I tend to think that back in the day, it was men saying, you're the best. Mm-hmm. You got to fight for your right to only be the queen on the throne or whatever it is that they say to people. But I think once you get older, you're able to work it out. And that's what happened with Antoinette and myself. And that's what happened with Roxanne Shanté.
But it also is something that just happens in hip hop too.
Yeah.
Because the guys do it all the time.
Right.
And I've heard women say this, like, why do people get mad when the guys are doing these diss tracks toward each other? Mm-hmm. Why do they act like it's a big deal when women do it? Because it's a competitive sport.
Right.
And you were saying some vicious things, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, well... Well, at the time, I mean, my stuff was just so off the wall. It was like pop your head in a microwave and watch your skin bubble. You know, it was just, what is the most outlandish thing that I could say right here?
Right.
And that's what it was made about. I think maybe they expect more from women because there's so few of us. There's so few of us. How are we not going to get along or at least be cordial enough that we don't have to dig so under the ground? But it is a sport. We have to remember that. And some are better at it than others. And when someone sees all of the light, or no pun intended, all of the shine or whatever going to somebody who's they deem as not deserving, it's like, I'm going after them kind of thing. So, I mean.
What advice would you give today now if some of these women rappers were to come to you and be like, look, I got to go. What do you think I should do? She came at me. Do I need to respond? Should I not respond? Like, what would you say?
Oh, well, it's a different day and time. And when you're of a certain age and you're in the thick of the flow of how it goes, you might have to diss someone to stand up for your space.
Okay.
Because
you can't be a punching bag either.
You can't be a punching bag and look the other way. There are times when, you know, I've heard a little line or two in somebody's stuff, but it's like, if they didn't have the gall enough to just say it and they had to hide it beneath metaphors, then I'm not even going to address it. And so my thing is, not unless it's proven that they're talking to you, ignore it.
Okay, that's good advice. Unless they call you out directly, subliminals shouldn't even matter.
Yeah, I mean, not unless they say, you know, the light that hails from Brooklyn. It's like, wait a minute.
That's me.
Right. I'll be like, what the?
I felt like a shot.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, you also have a song about the kings, because, you know, we do the queens.
King.
And yes, King as well. And the album feels like it is going to be something that is like a light.
Yeah,
no pun intended.
It's very inspirational. But, you know, I get down into the, you know, I do what's necessary. But it is a journey.
Okay.
So it's not one-dimensional. We've got definite songs that address social topics, but then also we've got, you know, songs that are just kick back. I got a song called Kick Back, Relax with Q-Tip on it. And that's basically like, okay, this game is so full of hustle and bustle, it's time to just unplug and
Y'all
kick
both
back.
have such distinctive voices, too. That's going to be a nice one
Yeah.
to hear both of you on. He also produced LL's album, right?
Yeah.
His full project.
Yeah.
LL was like, I'm just waiting on Q-Tip to...
Right. No, I love these thematic albums that sort of bring new purpose to collaboration. And so we're seeing, you know, Ghostface coming, and I guess it's through Nas's company, so you're able to see
Mass
that.
Appeal.
You see that together. And then you've got Freeway that's down with Jada right now, so they're kicking off a bunch of songs, verses together that I'm seeing online. And then LL with Q-Tip, which is great
Pete
to
Rock
see.
and Common.
Pete Rock and Common, you know, it feels like a new era.
Who's somebody that's not doing music anymore right now that came up when you came up that you're like, if I could get them to just, I've always wanted to work with this person. This could be dope to just bring this person back in the music scene.
Right. Shine was tough.
Okay.
Shine was tough, and
Yeah.
I don't think we got enough from him.
I know that was unfortunate how
The whole thing went south, right? But yeah, he just had something to say in a different way. His flow was really different to me. Rage, you know, she just did something with the guys with Dog Pound, but I'd like to see her do some stuff. You know, her solo stuff would be nice to hear. I wanted to hear more from the boss, but unfortunately,
I remember that album when that came out, Deeper.
Yes.
And she was with Onyx.
Yes,
She
Def
had
Jam.
Def Jam.
That whole lineup, because I remember seeing them at the Palladium, and it was Onyx and the boss, and it was one other person. I can't remember who the other person was, but I remember being in VIP, running into Run DMC. It was just like a whole Def Jam situation. It was so dope.
Yeah, she was really dope. And I'm glad you said that, because I remember her whole album. She had this one song, I Don't Give a Fuck. It was the whole song was how she don't give a fuck.
Right. I love it. Just the gall, you know.
It's interesting because Teray is here. She's 21 years old. You just met her when you came in. And I'm like, MC Lyte is coming today. And her mom is here too. Her mom is like, I'm staying in for that. And I was playing her some MC Lyte songs so she could be familiar because she's young.
Yeah.
You know, but like I said, I feel like a lot of those songs could still today be brought back or have people sampled maybe yes. Okay.
A large percentage of the plaques that live on my wall are due to samples.
Okay.
Yeah. And once in a while, there's actually a list online that's public that you can say who sampled this or who sampled this artist or who sampled this record, and you will get a long list
MC Lyte list
of all the people that have sampled something at one point or another.
Man, I was also showing her the Poor Georgie video, and I was like, look, you see, who's that right there? And I'm like, that's Lauryn Hill in the video. And I remember that because I always tell you guys did that off-Broadway play together. During that time. So you met her early on in her career. That was before the Fugees, was it? Or around that time?
It was definitely before the Fugees, and she was on a soap opera. Yeah, so she was acting, as the world turns. And so I remember them telling me that they were starting a group, she and Wyclef, because they both were in the play. And then it just so happens that the label that they were signed through, Rough House out of Philadelphia, was the same place we had Lin Q signed. And so we ran into them at the record label with Lin Q and the Fugees. And it was like, oh, yes, y'all said y'all was doing this. And then they blew up.
Isn't that fascinating to see, at the beginning of people's careers, how you could meet somebody?
Yeah, the beginning stages.
At the beginning stages. And you've done so much. The Hip Hop Sisters Foundation, I know that's something that's near and dear to your heart. And what I love is that MC Lyte has always, from the beginning of your career, I feel like you had the foresight to know, let me also be diverse.
Well, yes, always wanted to be diverse. So it really took preparing for each of the moments that called for a certain or specific talent, so acting or voiceover or such. But with Hip Hop Sisters, that came into be with Dr. Lynn Richardson, who I met in, I don't know, maybe 2011. Actually, we had been on the same carpets, in the same rooms, on the same panels for Get Your Money Right. You remember that?
Yeah, I do remember. I've been,
Get Your Money Right, where we went all across the country doing these panels to collegiate folks, teaching them how to get their credit straight, she was the COO of that once Valicia stepped away. She became the COO. And so we met a couple of times, but it wasn't until she saw Hip Hop Sisters, which was the artistry part of the organization. She said, I'd really like to talk with you about starting a foundation. And so we started the foundation together.
Wow, that was amazing. I remember those. And I think people talk about financial literacy. It's really a hot topic right now, as it should be, as it should have been. But you were pretty early on in that space also.
Well, yeah, because of her, you know. So I was able to learn such a great deal of things on this road with her, especially hearing her talk about it over and over again. It's become a mainstay for me. 10, 10, 30, 50. Okay, what's that? 10% of the money you earn, you save. 10 you tithe. And if you're not a member of a church, you tithe to an organization that you believe in, whether it's, police brutality in getting into the neighborhoods with community service, or battered women, or whatever that thing is for you. Then 30% you use for your incidentals, hair, nails, all of that stuff, and then 50% you keep in your checking account for your bills.
I know that's right.
Look, follow the remedy, y'all.
And then the other thing about MC Lyte is I feel like during this whole journey of watching your whole evolution, we also never got a lot of personal stuff, but then as of late, I feel like you've opened up a lot more about that. Is that a weird space for you to be in?
No, not so much.
Okay.
Yeah, it just feels like, okay, this is it. This is who I am. This is most recently, I think you might be talking about
getting divorced. and then a boyfriend and posting that. We never had really seen you.
Can I tell you, I have so many photos in my phone of he and I, but to post them is just like, do I want to let people in on that? It's just room for ridicule. But I can also say that the fans have been so completely supportive.
Right.
They're like, oh, good for Lyte, and I wasn't lying when I said in Poor Georgie, Lyte needs love too. So in any case.
And you don't like roughnecks, clearly, because, maybe you went through a phase.
I did. I
We all went through that phase.
And you know what's so funny? I talked to my brother and I said, so I've got this guy. He's a little square. He was like, that's good because these Iganes are too slick for themselves. That's what he says. So he's talking about the Roughnecks are a little too slick for themselves.
That was our song, though. I ain't gonna lie. That's when, because we all went through that phase where we were like, I need a roughneck.
Look, it was a place and time. We have evolved.
There was one line where you said he got to eat his food with his fingers.
Yeah.
I'm like, now that's too far.
Well, you
I need him to use a fork.
My grandfather said anything with a bone you can pick up with your hands.
Okay.
A piece of chicken, like, come on. If we're going out to eat and I see you with a chicken leg and you try to eat it with a
knife and a fork, that's me. But I do that also because I don't want to mess up my lipstick.
Right, and you're a woman.
I'm dainty.
You're a woman. I'm talking about a man. If you're trying to, if you don't pick that piece of chicken up
and just eat it,
we're gonna have an issue.
Especially if it's a flat, you can't do it. All right.
Right.
Well, listen, they're telling me you have to go. I know you have a lot going on, and I definitely appreciate these conversations. There's so many MC Lyte questions I want to ask, but just know that I'm always a fan. Have been a fan.
You.
Every time I see you, you've always been like pleasant. You know how sometimes they tell you don't want to meet your heroes because it could be devastating, but it's been amazing. Just to even...
Thank you so much. Well, this leaves room for me to come back.
Yeah, it definitely does.
We'll do a
so
part
the
two.
album is now going to come out in September?
Yeah, one of one in September. Right now, we're rocking the King King. We're letting everybody know that King King is the single. It's on all platforms. The video is up, Go visit whatever your streaming platform is of choice. Check it out. King King with Queen Latifah.
She's so good. That's that voice right there. That we
King with Queen Latifah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Now can you do Way Up with Angela Yee?
Way Up with Angela Yee.
All right. Save that because that's worth money. All right. All right. MC Lyte, thank you so much.
Thank you.